Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a fascinating paradox in the world of AI safety. To make a brand new AI model safe enough for all of us, a team of researchers first had to teach it how to be dangerous. Let's get into how they did it. This is probably the single biggest question in tech right now. We have these incredibly powerful new AI models, but how do you actually release them to the public without, also handing a potent new weapon to the bad guys? And this really gets to the heart of the dilemma with modern AI. These so-called open-weight models, where the guts of the AI are basically made public, they can speed up innovation for everybody. But everybody also includes people who might want to use it for harm. It's that classic tug-of-war between progress and risk. So to figure out the true risk of their new open-weight model, a team at OpenAI came up with a pretty bold plan. If you want to understand the enemy, well, you've got to become the enemy. They called their method malicious fine-tuning, or MFT for short. It's kind of like a stress test for a bridge, right? You don't just see if it can hold a few cars. You push it to its absolute breaking point. MFT is all about finding an AI's maximum potential for misuse before it ever gets out into the wild. So their attack plan had two main steps. First, they went in and systematically disabled the model's safety guardrails. That's the programming that makes it say, sorry, I can't help with that, to dangerous questions. Then, once the AI was, willing to cooperate, they started training it on specialized data to make it as good as possible at two really high-risk things: creating biological threats and carrying out cyber attacks. And they weren't just simulating some random amateur attacker either. No way. They used their own most advanced internal techniques, like reinforcement learning, which is basically a fancy way of rewarding the AI for producing the dangerous answers they were looking for, to see what the most sophisticated adversaries could pull off. This was a genuine worst-case scenario test. All right, so first up on the testing block, biological risks. Could this maliciously tuned AI actually help someone create a biological threat? And right away, the results were pretty surprising. When they tested it on pure biological knowledge, the fully tuned-up AI didn't just get better, it actually surpassed the performance of a human expert with a PhD on the subject. But, and this is a huge but, that is not the whole story. Because when it came to practical tasks, like trying to figure out why a real-world lab experiment went wrong, the AI just fell flat. The human expert was still way, way better. It's like the AI had all the book smarts in the world, but none of the hands-on lab experience. So what's the bottom line on biorisk? Well, the malicious tuning definitely made the model more knowledgeable, sure, but it didn't magically create a superhuman bioweapons designer. It was still less capable than the big, top-tier models that are kept under lock and key, and crucially, it didn't create some dangerous new capability that wasn't already out there. Okay, so that's biology. Next up, they put the AI through an absolute gauntlet of cybersecurity challenges. Could it autonomously hack complex systems? And the tests here were intense. I mean, we're talking professional-level capture-the-flag hacking competitions, and these even more complex cyber range environments that are designed to feel just like real-world corporate networks, forcing the AI to link a bunch of different steps together to have any chance of success. In those capture-the-flag contests, the results were pretty clear-cut. Even after all that malicious fine-tuning, their open models still couldn't catch up to OpenAI's more powerful closed O3 model. Yeah, it improved, but not by a dangerous amount. And what about those really, really complex, multi-step cyber environments? The most realistic hacking scenarios? The success rate for every single version of the model was 0%. A big, fat 0. A complete and total failure. So why did it fail so completely? This part is fascinating. It wasn't because it didn't know about cybersecurity. The problem was actually much more fundamental. It struggled with basic stuff, like managing its time or even using its own tools correctly. It would just give up on a promising attack way too soon. This was a failure of reasoning, not a lack of hacking knowledge.
So after all these tests, after deliberately trying to break their own model in the most effective ways they could imagine, what was the final verdict?
Here's the final scorecard. When you compare the fully maliciously tuned open model against its more powerful closed sibling and against other models already out there, a really clear pattern emerges. In both biorisk and cyber risk, it just doesn't create a dangerous new level of capability.
And this gets us to a really important distinction: absolute risk versus marginal risk. Now, absolute risk is the total potential for harm from AI in general. But the key question for this release was all about marginal risk. How much additional danger does this one specific model introduce compared to what already exists? And the testing showed that the marginal risk was small.
And that finding, the fact that the additional risk was small, is what ultimately gave them the confidence to go ahead and release the model. Their hope now is that this whole become the adversary approach can serve as a kind of blueprint for anyone else trying to release powerful AI safely.
It is a comprehensive and proactive approach, for sure, but it leaves us with one last critical question to think about. The models we have today are one thing, but as they get exponentially more capable, will this strategy of testing them by trying to break them be enough to ensure our safety in the long run? That's the challenge ahead.